On imom.com, we share ideas, insight, and inspiration. We do all that here too by sharing the best kind of stories, mom stories. We're all at different ages and stages, but one thing we have in common is that we're striving, and sometimes struggling, to love our children well. It's the iMom Podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the iMom Podcast. I'm Abby with Chloe, Susan, and Megan once again. And this week we're going to be talking about something that might come between you and another mom friend. It's confronting another mom about her child's bad behavior. And before you think we're just going to be pointing fingers at other moms and their horrible children, this could also be a lesson for those of us who have a friend come to us and say, oh, hey, by the way, this is what my kid said your kid did. So we got to take this in as maybe the recipient or the giver of the news. My story is that this was probably a few months ago. My younger son came to me and he said, so-and-so, we'll call this child Michael. Michael told me I'm fat. And I was just like, and he had this look on his face of like total shame of like, he believed it. And, Mom, tell me this isn't true, or it is true, isn't it? And of course, I reassured him. I said, son, your body is perfect and I love it. And there's so many things that I love about it. That was unkind what he said. And I don't think I'm going to tell that boy's mom. As much as I want to say to her, hey, I know how you're raising your kids and this behavior is not something I think you would condone. I think I'm going to keep it to myself. I don't think this is one that I'm going to share. And I've wrestled with whether or not that's the right thing to do. And so then I wrote an article about it and just kind of like, how do you know when you go to another mom and how do you know when to keep it to yourself? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today is when do you tattle on a kid to their mom? So first, initial thoughts. Anybody have that happen to you or to one of your kids?
Yes.
Perfect. I should have asked an open-ended question.
Okay. How do you do this? It's just so hard. There's so many variables at play here. How well do you know the mother? How often is your child with this child? Is it really going to impact their future going forward? In other words, if this is your child's best friend, Mayday, because that could become a bad thing if this child is saying this to your son every day. But if this is just a kid in the class that, is an ornery thing, a bully will call him, whatever, then you've got to know there's going to be those kind of kids in the class. And, okay, honey, I know that was really ugly, but look at who it was coming from and understand he's doing this to probably lots of people. And talking to the parent's probably going to go nowhere. Talking to the teacher might help. But so again, that's another avenue. Do you talk to the teacher? Do you, Chloe, before we started this, you asked me about the mom mafia. I do think it's important to have your close group of friends that are the moms of your kids' close group of friends. And you do have that kind of transparency with each other. Like I've said to parents when I drop my kids off, hey, you're my friend. Our kids are friends. My child does anything I need to know about. Tell me. Yeah. Do not hesitate. I'm not sensitive. I want to know. I want to parent. I want to help them grow in wisdom and in stature and favor with God and man. And so I therefore need your input. Yeah. You got to have those kind of close friends. But
Megan, have you had anybody, any of James's friends say that he's done anything bad?
So they're pretty little still. So for example, like one child came running to the other mom I was talking to and said, James did something or whatever. And we kind of just then separate them and we're like, okay, whatever happened, like don't retaliate, or if you started it, don't do that. But it happened in instances too, where like another child tattled on him and I saw the other child start the whole thing and then come tattle and say that my kid did something. And then I'm like, well, I just saw it happen. That's not really how it went down. But I tell friends all the time, I'm like, if he's over at your house and he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing, absolutely feel free to put him in timeout because that's what we do. If he does something first time or if he doesn't listen or whatever, he doesn't share, whatever it might be, feel free to put him in timeout if he's at your house and I'm not there.
Yeah. Well, I think there's 3 filters to run the situation through to help you determine whether or not you should tell the other mom or if you should just kind of keep it to yourself. And one of them is the behavior. Yes, the behavior is inappropriate, but is it age appropriate? I went to one of my friends, the school counselor, and I was talking to her about another incident where a little boy, my son drew a picture and the little boy took the picture and crumbled it up and threw it away. And I talked to this friend about it, and I was like, do I say something to mom? Because that was kind of mean, but do I need to step in? And she said, it was mean, but that's age appropriate. She said that his little crumbling up of the thing, that was something that a child at that age would do. And so they can work it out between the two of them. So that's for you to decide. But if it's age appropriate, then you can probably stay back. Another one is, the other filters are other people talking about it. So I have a friend whose daughter got called a really mean name at school, and a bunch of kids saw it, and they went home and told their parents. And so my friend's getting texts from other moms going, oh, I can't believe that this happened. And so everybody's talking about it. And she's like, if this mom doesn't know that her son said this, then she should know, because now she's the topic of conversation among other parents. And then the third one, is there a genuine concern that the behavior could lead to a bigger issue? So if this is like a moral issue and you really think that, this child's mother needs to know, then I think it's right to tell. And I mean, that happened to me. My next door neighbor was like, did you know your son told my son about sex? And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, he said this and this. I was like, well, he wasn't wrong, but I hear you. Okay. And so I had to pull him aside. So yeah, I mean, she thought that this could lead to a bigger issue. Hey, did you know your son is the town, informant, on sex. So yeah, I appreciated it. And I was like, all right, thank you. Yeah. And I could address the issue with him.
Your son wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, no, that's the big one. No, the little, it's the younger one. But I do think that so what's the right way then to approach another mom? Or maybe what's the wrong way? If you guys can put yourself in the place of the mom who is being told, hey, your kid did this bad thing, how do you want to hear it in a way that will help you receive it?
I love the way you just said it. Hey, did you know that your son told my son about this? Heads up, just so you know, maybe he wants to not be sharing that with the 3-year-olds in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, then it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
They're going to talk, they're boys, they're going to talk about what they know. Age appropriate again, but maybe somebody needs to tell them that they really shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if you don't know the other parent? Do you think that, say it passes all these criteria and you really do think that it's something that the other parent needs to know, but they're just an acquaintance?
I think that's hard. Because the reality is, we'd like to all say that women are going to be gracious to each other, but you don't know if that mom's going to be touchy or get angry with you or talk to
I
other
wouldn't
people.
say anything. If they were just an acquaintance, I wouldn't say anything because I just wouldn't.
What if the thing that the kid did was really bad?
I don't know. I guess it depends on how bad. It would have to depend on what it is. If I felt like the child was in danger or it was that bad, or something like that, then obviously I would probably tell them. But if it was just, I don't know.
I guess if it happens at school,
I would talk to the teacher. I would go through the teacher. Go to the authority.
Yeah.
Especially if they were stealing or something like that.
Because that's if the mom is an acquaintance.
Yeah.
Not if the kid is an acquaintance to your.
I mean, you assume it'd be like a classmate or somebody on the playground or something.
You just gotta let the teacher. Hey, just so you know, I don't know the facts about this. This is what I've heard. This is going down in school.
Because what do you do if it's a repeated behavior and your kid's like, I don't want to hang out with this kid anymore? I had that happen with a friend of mine, and the mom was reaching out to my friend saying, why doesn't your kid want to hang out with my kid anymore? And it's like, well, but they weren't that good of friends. So she's like, I wasn't going to go approach her.
That's really hard because then the mom is asking you.
Yeah, that's true. So in that situation.
Well, and I was thinking, what if it's outside of school? What if they're at I don't know, a third friend's house playing, or if they're at your house playing, or I don't know, it comes up in a situation outside of school where the teacher really has nothing to do with it.
Well, I don't think it's ever going to go over well if you don't know the person at all. Say you're at the playground or you're at Chuck E. Cheese and the kid punches your kid in the arm.
Don't go to Chuck E. Cheese. That's rule one.
You're going to, if you go up to another mom who's a stranger and say, your child just did this, I mean.
Well, the problem is it's hearsay. You didn't see, so it's your child versus their child.
Yeah.
So you're right. It doesn't usually go well.
Yeah. So what if you're not sure if it's true? I have a friend whose son swore up and down that his classmate stole some Pokemon cards.
Megan, Pokemon cards. Megan had Pokemon cards stolen. She
No,
was in
I had
school.
2 and they got stolen, and I was like, oh well, there's my 2. The big thing for us growing up, Chloe, I don't know if you were old enough to have these when
Abby
we did,
definitely
but Jelly
is.
Roll. Do y'all remember Jelly Roll pens?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Jelly Roll pen. We'd have like big bags of them.
You could probably keep one in a Trapper Keeper. Going back to. So anyway, he swore, he's like, he took my cards, this boy, and he just had a vibe about the kid. He took my cards. This, like, my friend told me about it, and we were planning to break into this kid's house. Obviously, we were joking, but like, he's having a party. We can sneak in. We'll wear camouflage, and we'll find those cards. It was just a very elaborate plan that we were forming. Come to find out, they were at her house still. And she never confronted the mom, thank goodness.
God,
but like, what do you do if your child is saying this is happening, but you don't have any proof? Like,
Yeah.
I pray. You know, sometimes you have to ask God, okay, Lord, I don't feel right about this. So you be still if you don't feel right about it. And then you watch and wait. And sometimes if we really open our eyes, God reveals things, like you learn stuff. And so I always think it's better to err on the side of being still and waiting than making a mistake.
do you think the same is true if somebody comes to you and says, here, this is what your child did? I mean,
I think you don't want to disrupt your child's trust. So you have to have that conversation. But I think, so go to your child first. Let's talk about this. And you have to do it non-reactionary. You have to say, hey, I got to ask you a question. Like, you know, just like, I'm open. I'm not making a judgment call. Talk to me about this. And then again, you have to pray, Lord, give me wisdom and discernment here. Is my child telling the truth or aren't they? And I did have a situation where one of my kids was not telling the truth, and I knew they weren't telling the truth, and it took me days to figure it out, and I was twisted inside. But the truth was revealed, and that is often what we can pray for. It's, okay, bring it to the light, Lord. I got to know.
yeah. I think also as you're waiting and praying, I think that's the time where you consider where your own heart is. Are you really concerned? Do you really have a genuine concern about your child's safety or well-being, or is there some other motivation there?
Yeah.
You know,
Good point.
is there some motivation of like, I want that other mom to be put in her place, or I want to feel better about my parenting by pointing out another parent's the child's shortcomings or something like that.
And if the truth is never revealed, can you let it go? Just let it go and say, okay, you know what, Lord, I'm never going to know the truth about this one, but I'm going to keep my eyes out because somebody has said something about my child. I'm going to look for that in them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be blind next time if it is true. And if I never know, I let it go.
I don't think you can really predict how you would react if someone came to you, because I think that in a lot of cases with school, I assume that my child is the one that did the wrong thing. Like, we get the email that says, it has come to our attention that some children in the class have done X, Y, Z. And then when my kids get home, I'm like, are you part of this?
Yeah.
Are you a part of this? You better not be a part of this.
That's me. I'm like, my poor boys, every single time someone comes out, I'm like, did you do this? Tell me.
Right,
now. Were you
right.
part of-
And so
I don't ever assume they're innocent.
yeah. So I feel like if a mom came to me and said, your son did this, I would be like, oh, he's dead. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, sometimes the mama bear stuff comes out and you get real defensive. So I think it just takes that deep breath and a moment of prayer and patience.
And to remember what you said before, sometimes this is age-appropriate children working out, their sin. They're trying a few little bad things and stuff is happening and they're with each other all day in class. Stuff is going to go down. Yeah. And so how much is it just them working it out?
Yeah. What were you going to say, Megan?
Yeah, well, and that kind of goes along with what I was going to ask is, I feel like a lot of the times, depending on their ages, I guess kids can work things out on their own. But what do you do with like the parent that really thinks their child can do no wrong, like never does anything wrong, really truly like believes that their child
I think you
never
keep them at
does
a
anything
safe
wrong.
distance.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It
And
is
can you
hard.
coach your kid to kind of navigate that friendship for themselves if they're at a certain age?
But if you're friends with the parents and you're together socially all the time, your kids are thrown together, and that puts you and your child in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Sticky.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about for teenagers? I mean, I feel like this conversation is kind of elementary and younger. When you have a teen, what if they're asking you to not say anything?
Oh, because another teen did something?
Yeah. You know, because like do you go to the other child and say, hey, I found out you're doing this? You know, if it's your teenager's friend and you're driving them somewhere, or you have all your kids' friends' phone numbers, do you say, hey?
Oh, that's so hard.
If a life is at risk, you have to look at your child and say, I know you trusted me not to say anything, but a life is at risk here.
Yeah.
Like they're drinking and driving or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because you don't want anything to happen to them and then for you to feel like, or your child feel like, oh my gosh, we should have said something.
Yeah, and as someone who I had an action of mine exposed to my mom in a Walmart aisle, and
We've heard about this
yeah,
story.
she came home and said, "I know you did this." I was like, ugh. But like as an adult, I'm like, I'm really glad she found out. So I don't know. I guess no, but the woman who told my mom was one of my best friends' moms, and her and my mom were really good friends.
Yeah.
So I feel like
And I can't believe she said that in a grocery store. Let me just say that.
I know.
That would have been a personal call.
I know.
I think it reminds me of that phrase, you know, earn the right to be heard. And I think that because it was like one of your best friend's moms, they had that rapport. Same thing with, you know, you going to another mom who you barely know. I mean, you haven't really earned the right to be heard with that parent. So if there is a real safety thing that is the issue, yes, you can still say it, but don't necessarily expect her to respond kindly or to receive the news with open arms. So if you want, like say you have your group of friends, is there something you can say and a position you can kind of put your heart in a conversation with other moms that say, I want you to tell me, kind of like what you said at the beginning, Susan, or Megan, you said, you know, if my child does this and he's at your house, I want you to tell me. Like, how do we give our friends permission to tell us if our kids have done something wrong and really mean it? Like, is there something that we can do in another area of our life? Is there another behavior that we can show that communicates, I really mean this, and I will listen if you come to me and you tell me this? Does that make sense? That question makes sense?
Yeah, I think we cannot be prideful about our children. And that people can see that if you're going to be the kind of person that's going to receive that. But if you really love and want to be able to parent and guide your child, especially through the teen years, then you are going to put aside your pride and you're going to want really parents to tell you that. Yeah. I think the other thing that was really a big help to me in the teen years is we had a Moms in Touch at Plant. And Moms in Touch is a mother's group. They're international. That is mothers getting together and praying for their school and what's happening at the school and the teachers at the school and the kids. And I'll tell you, I learned so much through the prayer of other women on our, just with our heads bowed, people praying for things going on at the school that I wouldn't have known if I didn't go to Moms in Touch. Not that that was the purpose, to be informed, but it opened my heart to ways I needed to be praying for my kids who were in that environment. Yeah. We don't walk through the halls unless you're a substitute, which is, again, something I highly recommend. If you can take, if you don't have to always be at work and can occasionally substitute, it's a great way to really understand your children's environment. We don't know what they're going through, but when moms collectively get together and are transparent with one another, you learn stuff that you need to know.
Yeah. I don't think that it's reasonable to expect moms to react calmly to this kind of stuff when we allow our children's behavior to be a reflection of us. We are so if my child gets straight A's, it's thanks to me. If my child dresses well, it's thanks to me. If my kid is a star athlete, it's thanks to me. So if all of these things, the opposite happens, then I'm to blame. And so as long as we keep doing that, as long as we keep thinking that our children are another limb coming off of us, I don't think that we're going to ever take another mom's criticism well, So it's a getting out of that mindset in the first place and having those conversations with your friends.
I got a Christmas letter this year that I loved. Like I literally wanted to frame it because the mom was so transparent about what each of her kids was struggling with. I said, this is reality.
Yeah.
I love this. And it was funny too, the way she said, well, we decided to take a trip. Some of her kids are older. She and her husband have been traveling more because her kids are older. So we decided to bring 2 of the girls on a trip, and there's a reason why you don't bring your kids on a trip. You know, she's hilarious.
Right.
I read it and I was like, oh, I love her.
Yeah.
So to be like that, you're right. It is hard because we're not like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much competition, you know, there's just competition between moms everywhere. So for another mom to come to you and say, hey, your kid was a real jerk to my kid. There's not much, very, very low expectations, I think, when it comes to handling that news well.
Yeah.
But I do think that good can come from those difficult conversations. I think that you can maybe make a new friend. You can deepen a friendship that you have.
Yeah.
Like you said, Susan, you can discover something that's happening in your child's world that maybe you didn't already know about, something that your child is struggling with, something you can start praying for. So if you are the recipient, I don't think you should reject it, you know, welcome it with open arms.
I love to look at it like a basketball game. I don't know if you ever played basketball or watched basketball, but it's kind of like the moms against the kids. And in a basketball game, you'll see like a teammate run by another teammate and slap 5 and go, they're elbowing over there. Number 25 is elbowing. I got it. I'll take care of that. You know, and that's how I feel as moms we need to be is, hey, number 32 is throwing elbows, you know? So watch out when you're over there and keep an eye on it. And just, it's like team playing.
together.
It's fast.
Yeah.
We're together. We've got our eyes on it. And we're not only being defensive, but offensive. And it's for the good of the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is a game.
Yep.
And then the game, they grow up and hopefully they know how to play the game themselves when they're against their kids.
Yeah.
But if we kept it at that level of like, go, high five, you go, you're up.
You're
Yeah,
in. Yep.
that's good.
Tagging you in. All right. So how have you reacted when another mom has confronted you, or have you had to do that? Have you had to go to a mom and say, hey, your kid did this? And how did that turn out for you? Tell us in the link in the show notes, and be sure to tell another mom about the iMom podcast. That will help deepen your community and make you some good mom friends. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the iMom podcast. iMom is the motherhood program of the nonprofit organization Family First. Along with our fatherhood program, All Pro Dad, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the iMom Minute, by going to imom.com/subscribe and get tons of great ideas, insight, and inspiration. The iMom podcast is hosted by me, Abby Watts, along with Susan Merrill, Megan Tigner, and Chloe Blumenthal.